Hello, welcome. In this video, we are going to be talking about brand differentiation. Um, we're going to be discussing concepts such as competitive advantage, understanding what unique selling proposition is. We are going to importantly study some 4 different means of differentiation that are commonly used by firms in today's very competitive marketplace. So without further ado, let us carry on and understand that differentiation is about primarily identifying the one thing or few things that sets you apart, that sets a firm apart from its competition, that allows a firm to be different. And typically this differentiation is founded on something called a competitive advantage. Now there is a concept that was pioneered by Professor Michael Porter of Harvard Business School. And let's just quickly understand this. So a competitive advantage is a company's ability to perform in one or more ways in a manner in which its competitors either cannot or will not match. There are many reasons why sustaining a competitive advantage will give value to a firm, and you're going to study some of these reasons. But rest assured, it's the competitive advantage along some dimension, so the dimension of differentiation, which will allow a firm to succeed in its marketing efforts in the market, in this competitive world. Also, I'll take your mind back to our discussion about POP and POD during brand positioning. We talked about points of parity and points of difference. So, but here, competitive advantage would be something significant in the points of difference. That's how the competitive advantage may typically get translated for the firm. So, all this is all, very, very well, and, there are all these big, wonderful quotes from business leaders out there. So here is one by the famous Jack Welch, like the legendary CEO of GE, saying that essentially, a competitive advantage is your basis for being able to differentiate your product, your service, and in order to compete, to be able to successfully compete, in this crazy world that we find ourselves in today. So, related to this, let's really understand, so how might this competitive advantage and this differentiation be built? So one way of thinking of this is lies in understanding this concept of what might be a firm's unique selling proposition, USP. Okay, so if you study this little Venn diagram that I have here, right, the crucial circle in this Venn diagram where everything starts with is what does the consumer want? What are the consumer needs and wants that your brand, your firm is aiming to satisfy, right? And these typically are consumers that fall, in the target segments that your brand is going after, and these are the customers whose needs you are trying to address by means of having a successfully differentiated, superior product or service. And so again, if we carry on with this Venn diagram, the remaining 2 circles, as is pretty obvious, are relate to your brand and your competitor's brand. And again, what really matters is the overlap between what does the consumer want, with your brand and your competitors. So who cares, about this zone, right? Where the consumer wants and needs are not directly reflected in terms of what is it that your brand offers. So again, if we kind of look over this, I mean, clearly the red X is the danger zone, right? Where that's the area to avoid. That's where your competitor does a better job than you. And this is where, if you were to take on your competitor head on, is where your brand would get into trouble and be able to and not be able to compete successfully. And in contrast here, the green check mark is the fantastic pure winning zone, right? Where your brand's best features, meet some essential consumer needs, and this is where you should really focus your attention on, and where brands, should be enamored about targeting, their consumers. So I hope this Venn diagram proves useful in characterizing what might be the unique proposition, a unique selling proposition. So we've actually covered a couple of important points here. Right, we've started by talking about differentiation. We understood this from the lens of a competitive advantage, and we carried on and came down to characterizing and identifying a unique selling proposition for a brand in order to succeed in today's marketplace. So right here is a well-known best-selling book by the famous Jack Trout. He's a well-known marketing consultant out there, and as the title of this book suggests, right, it just motivates the importance of differentiating your products and services, compared to what else is out there and is available, from your from your competition. Excuse me. So in this latter half of the video, now I'm going to carry on, and talk to you about some of the means of differentiation that firms employ. And look, there are many such means, many methods out there, but the four that I'm going to focus on, and crave your attention for, lies in identifying. So firms may differentiate themselves based on their employees, based on their effective use of the different marketing channels that they operate in, based on the image that they evoke in the minds of in the hearts of their consumers, and last but not the least, in the service, in their ability to provide service to their end consumers. And before I go here, it should be clear that these different means of, depending on the industry, depending on the product, one or more of these different means of differentiation would become relevant. So let's just kind of plow straight ahead, and understand employee differentiation. So look, there are two flavors here, right? I mean, there is the flavor of getting the best people in the industry to work for you, and this is just something. Here's Google here. Now, Google is well known for a variety of reasons. One of the reasons is that from an employee's perspective, it's a fantastic, wonderful place to work in. Right? I mean, the work culture, the work environment that Google offers its employees, many people in the industry say is unparalleled. They offer, among other things, employees can eat unlimited gourmet food. Employees have a very congenial and friendly work environment. Employees may personalize the workspace, to suit their taste. Then there is the famous Google program of letting employees work on their own private projects 1 out of 5 days of the week, which has actually provoked a lot of innovativeness from the firm. Now, related to we've been talking about employee differentiation. It might be just how your employees are trained to interact with your end consumers. So in a heavily service-dominated industry such as the airline industry, Singapore Airlines is extremely well regarded because of just how well trained their flight attendants are, and how extremely effective they are in dealing with the needs of their consumers who fly Singapore Airlines. So good. I think in the last couple of minutes we've talked about one of these four means of differentiation that I wanted to bring your attention to. And really the second means of differentiation is so-called channel differentiation, and I'm going to be elaborating that just now. So companies can essentially be, depending on the context, be far more effective and efficient, if they can but design their distribution and their coverage effectively with a high level of expertise and performance, with the end objective of making their consumers' needs and their buying experience, easier, better, more enjoyable, so on and so forth. So there are many examples, and I'm just going to pick on two well-known examples. So there is the Eureka Forbes company, right, and they were pioneers in having extremely well-trained door-to-door salesmen who went around visiting people in their homes, persuading them to subscribe to purchase, their line of vacuum cleaners and water purifiers, and they really excelled in managing this direct channel of meeting consumer needs by convincing consumers on a one-to-one, door-to-door basis. Uh, Yet, another context in which channel differentiation would be really relevant in today's world, a more contemporary example, if you will, is the rising world of the crazy growth that we are seeing in the realm of e-commerce, especially in the context of emerging economies like India. And so, what this slide is showing you are several competing e-commerce providers, and the quick point that I'd like to make is, say in the Amazon versus Flipkart battle, e-commerce battle that's taking place, or if you consider the triopoly of Snapdeal, Amazon, and Flipkart, what we're going to see in India is that a crucial element of their success lays in their effective use of their marketing channel, and their ability to efficiently and effectively satisfy consumer needs, both in terms of the product lines that they carry, but also more importantly in terms of how effectively, efficiently, they're able to supply, to manage their supply chain of getting the product that a consumer has purchased, right from their workshop, from their back-end data warehouse, their warehouse where the products might be housed, down to the end consumer. Carrying on further, we can talk about the so-called image differentiation. And there are many firms that are experts in crafting extremely powerful and compelling images that appeal to consumers' social and psychological needs. Again, one can think of multiple examples, and the one I'd like to show you is this one. Right, this is the famous Marlboro Cowboy. Right, so if you think of the world of branded cigarettes, the Marlboro brand actually enjoys as high as a 30% market share, and there is this commonly held wisdom that it's the macho cowboy image of Marlboro that has struck such a responsive chord among the consumers, the target consumers, the cigarette smoking public out there. And so a crucial driver of this fantastic image, this macho image that the Marlboro brand of cigarettes enjoys, is right here in front of you, and allowing the firm to Philip Morris, the parent firm, to differentiate itself from a lot of other competition out there. So last but not the least, we want to talk about service differentiation. And again, I want to kind of emphasize that these four kinds of differentiation are not, we've already talked about employee, channel, and image differentiation, and now we're talking service differentiation. It's important to realize that these are not independent silos that firms are operating in, and clearly there are elements of managing employees effectively in channel, along with the channel, the image, and the service that a company offers. I thought I'd say that now rather than later. So really, again, back to service differentiation really quickly, right? Let's see how might service be used as an effective differentiation method. So really, like the three keywords I'd like to talk to you about are reliability, resilience, and innovativeness. These might be factors of service, along which firms might differentiate themselves. So reliability here would be, literally, with what reliability, with what probability of success will a firm be able to serve the needs of a customer. Resilience, in contrast, refers to how would a firm react to an emergency situation, that if something goes wrong, how resilient is a firm in reacting and responding to these unwanted, unwelcome emergencies or unusual life situations. And frankly, and lastly, the innovativeness, right? How innovative is our firm? It's the firm in able to how might innovation enable the firm to better serve their customer needs? So I'm going to kind of end this by giving you a few examples of service differentiation. So right here is FedEx, and FedEx is known to be extremely efficient, in managing their supply chain. So if you were to contrast this with reliability, really FedEx is one of the most. I mean, their whole USP is having extremely reliable delivery systems, that are real time in place up there. So, um, so right here is another example of extremely resilient firm, Caterpillar. So Caterpillar makes these, sometimes extremely large and complicated looking machines, right, that help construction companies around the world um, in their projects. Now, Caterpillar's promise, to their customers, which are typically these big construction companies, is that anytime the company experiences a breakdown, Caterpillar will back it by extremely resilient, promise that Caterpillar will come there and fix the machinery that may be broken or not working, even if it happens to be a very remote location in the world. Right, Caterpillar engineers are trained to, be extremely nimble and responsive to product breakdowns and service needs that might arise. And last but not the least, we can talk about innovation in the context of Starbucks. If you think about a Starbucks coffee house, right, it's not just really the product, which is like gourmet coffee. It's Starbucks' innovation in offering exceptional service, to consumers. Whether it's the personalization which comes with uh, Starbucks employees addressing consumers by their names, whether it comes from, the training that the Starbucks baristas have in providing the best coffee drinking experience to their customers, or whether it comes from, the ambience and in terms of how the Starbucks has been designed, how, and the experience that a consumer goes through in sitting in a Starbucks cafe, enjoying a coffee beverage. So good. I think with this we can recap our discussion. We've been really talking about differentiation here and how important it is for branding, and we've talked about concepts such as building and sustaining a competitive advantage. What the importance of differentiation. You really need to differentiate or die, in the words of Jack Trout. We talked about exactly what is a unique selling proposition. Then we moved on and we talked about four well-known methods by which firms might achieve differentiation that are right here in front of you. We've talked about employee differentiation, think Singapore Airlines and Google. We've talked about channel differentiation, think Eureka Forbes and the Indian e-commerce firms like Amazon and Flipkart. We talked about image-based differentiation. You may want to think Marlboro by Philip Morris. And last but not the least, we talked about service-based differentiation, where you may want to think of FedEx, Caterpillar, and Starbucks. So with that, it's my pleasure to have spoken to you. I look forward to carrying on the conversation in one of my subsequent videos. Thanks for watching. Talk to you soon.